एक मिनट रुक जाओ, रेडी होने दो. चलो ये कर लेते हैं. This could be a great intro.
Hi, I'm Akshay.
Hi, this is Saurabh, and you are listening to the Founder Thesis podcast. We meet some of the most celebrated startup founders in the country.
And we want to learn how to build a unicorn.
Hi, I'm Abhinav. I started Echo in September of 2007, and I did this with my elder brother Abhishek.
It's the year 2007. Flipkart is still very much an idea in the minds of the Bansals. SoftBank is yet to invest in a single Indian founder. The word unicorn refers to a mythical horse. This is the era when Abhinav Sinha, along with his brother, started Echo with an ambitious idea of building a fintech platform for payments. Being too early is as dangerous as being too late, and Echo went through many near-death experiences simply because of bad timing. But through it all, the brothers persisted against all odds, even picking up backers like Bill Gates, who is an early investor in Echo. Today, Echo is lifeline of payments for the masses, with lakhs of merchants using the platform to process bank transactions and offer financial services to their community. And the brothers are as ambitious as ever about the way forward. Here's Abhinav Sinha telling Akshay Dutt about Echo.
If you remember in early 2000s, if you go to recharge your phone, you had to buy a scratch card.
Yeah, right.
You had to scratch that scratch card, 16-digit number, put it on an SMS, send that SMS, and it will get recharged. If you remember what has happened since then in the telecom world, is that the scratch cards have got removed and there is something called electronic recharge, right? You just walk into a store and say that, I want to recharge for $50, $40, 38. So you can recharge for any denomination these days, right? And by the way, it's very core to how the prepaid telephony then scaled, because prepaid telephony, the supply chain got cheaper. There was no hardware. People could recharge with any denomination. It really went to tier 2, tier 3, all the way to tier 8, even in India. And all the retailers could start to participate rather than a few retailers participating with these scratch cards. So the beauty of that product, actually that product, at my experience, so closely with the client side, actually is the reason for the birth of Echo. So if you think about it, electronic recharge, look at all what's happening, right? There is a person with a phone, walks to a retailer with a phone and says that, why don't you recharge my phone with $500?
Yeah.
And he gives cash and he gets an SMS which says, I've recharged, right? Now think about it. I have used the word recharge, but I could have also used the word deposit. I could have said, deposit 500 into my Airtel prepaid account, right? As soon as we kind of started to realize, this is really a deposit transaction. Sure, a deposit transaction in a telecom world is called recharge. And the money that goes into that account is only being used for telephony. But imagine if the same tech stack is put to a bank. What can happen, right? This tech stack is getting retailers to take in cash and make a deposit happen, right? Because we were techies, we could imagine the opposite transaction too, which was the withdrawal, right? Imagine if the same tech stack is put to a bank. Imagine how much of scale we could bring financial services to.
Okay. Quick question here. The retailer who's taking in the cash, how does he operate?
He has loaded eval recharges. So for example, what happens is, think of this as FMCG, right? There is a distributor who buys FMCG products in bulk, then sells it to the retailer sells it to the end customer. Exactly the same way recharges work. There are distributors who buy bulk talk time. Then they sell bulk talk time, a part of that bulk talk time, to retailers. And retailers then sell individual talk time to customers. That's how it works. Imagine the same thing, that there is a distributor of State Bank of India who puts in value and then sells that value at the same price to the retailer. And then retailer kind of does this cash in, cash out kind of transaction. So we kind of knew, we figured this out. We were techies, we figured it out that this can work.
But your brother was already a co-founder in a company. Why would he entertain a
So
new
I'll tell you. So the original plan was not to build it outside 6G, by the way. When we started to do better with prepaid recharge as a platform, so once we kind of implemented it in Muscat, I had fantastic opportunities. At that point in time, I forget the name of the operator, but that product gave me the opportunity to travel to Bangladesh, Indonesia. So nobody knew about it. So it was like everyone was starting at the same place, right? And since because it was a new product, there were less number of people who knew about it. It just opened up the opportunity for me to start pitching as well. And it also started because I started to pitch. But even when I started to pitch, I remember that I didn't stop coding because I just knew the product well. So I remember Abhilash then telling me that, hey, Abhinav, why don't you build a team around this product? Because now this product, maybe I'm mistaken, but I think this product at least started to bring back a lot of excitement back to 60. I think the other products were very, very competitive space. This was a new product. There were a lot more people asking for it. While I was there, maybe we just about managed one or two installations. But I think if there were two installations, there were at least 20 inquiries that were happening about it. And it just gave us a lot of opportunities. That one year in 2006, apart from traveling back to Muscat multiple times to make sure that the upgrades are happening, features are getting released, the client is happy, all that, I used to also travel to countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, and within the country to start pitching. So I had kind of gotten used to this. I said, yeah, I know how to do this. And what started to happen was by late 2006, like any startup, even 6D was going through a tough time. I think there was a lot of cash flow issues. So while there was traction to this particular product, but it didn't really match with the cash requirements that we had at that point in time. So what happened was once this product started to get built, I just thought that, I wanted to give a name to the product. Otherwise, every name used to be, if it's for the SMS, it was called an SMS center. If it is USSD, it was called USSD. I was like, no, I just want to give it a name.
You wanted some branding.
I don't think so. I just thought about branding, but I just thought that I want a name to this. So we could see that a recharge product, how could it morph to financial services, mobile commerce, mobile payment? We could start joining the dots. And I thought that I just thought that there should be a name to this. And luckily, I used to share my rented place with a friend of mine from school. And this guy, Balu, his name is Balshankar. We kind of call him Balu. Balu and I used to kind of live together. And I kind of reached out to Balu and I said, you know what? I want a name to this. So one fine day, one Saturday, Sunday, I don't recall, but we said, "Theek hai." Let's just start scribbling every word that's coming to our mind. And one of the many names that I ended up writing was the word echo, ECHO. And Balu kind of turned around and said, this is a great word. It's a small word, but stylize it and don't spell it ECHO, spell it EKO. So the pronunciation is echo. So I said, I want it to echo and I want it to, go everywhere. But he kind of said that don't spell it ECHO. I think it's a boring spelling. Spell it EKO. It's a far better spelling. And that's when Echo was a product in 6D. It wasn't a company at that back then. And 6D is struggling at that point in time, right? So this happened in late 2006. And there were a couple of events that happened after that, which led to the split. When I say split, a few shareholders, including Abhishek, kind of exited out. Everybody who kind of exited out did not want to exit out.
So when the split happened, did the eco product go with you?
That was one of the things that we told Abhilash. And we told him that, it's not that we want to do mobile recharge part of it. We really want to get into the mobile payments and financial services part of it, which 60 is not doing. I hope you're okay with that. So at that point in time, I think Abhilash kind of said, yeah. I'm not getting into financial services. I'm going to stick to telecoms. I have no issues with you guys trying your hand at financial services. So we didn't get any part of code, but we had the IP and we said that there was no non-compete with 60 to not do it at that point in time. Both of us telling each other, first 30 days, you're not doing anything. You're just leisure time. And I think it was those 30 days that I traveled to Japan and my father was there. And I remember coming back from Japan and I'm like, sure, Abhishek, have you thought about it? Should we do this? And I remember, I think Abhishek said, maybe I need another 30 days. I don't want to do anything. And we genuinely whiled away time apart from doing some amount of whiteboarding. So we were kind of really flirting with the idea, should we do it? Should we not do it? Let's whiteboard it too. And so all through February of 2007 to September of 2007, we spent a lot of time whiteboarding. And in this journey of about 6 months, we managed to go from 2 co-founders to 4 co-founders. First of all, Abhishek and I decided that we will work with each other. It wasn't a given at all. So we spent some time whiteboarding. We kind of enjoyed. We said the two of us can work together. And so we kind of decided that we will do it. This space in 2007 was so new that if you go ahead and say mobile payments to a lot of people, people wouldn't get it at that point in time. I remember we got introduced to a gentleman by the name of Sanjay Bhargav. Sanjay Bhargav was coming from PayPal exit experience. He had worked at PayPal. So his background is he worked for, I don't know, about 30 years in Citibank in India, Southeast Asia, finally in the New York at the New York office. Then he went from Citibank to X.com.
Okay.
X.com.
Which was Elon Musk's.
Exactly. I think Sanjay was the 10th employee of X.com. X.com got acquired by PayPal. Sanjay and Sanjay's wife, Anita, both were working for PayPal at that point in time in Silicon Valley. And, once they kind of, I think I think maybe the transaction or whatever it was, they finally decided to come back to India. I think Sanjay and Anita's parents were both getting old and they wanted to make sure that they are here for their parents. And so they came back from US to India. And I don't recollect how we got introduced to Sanjay. Somebody kind of said that, hey, there's this gentleman by the name of Sanjay Bhargav. Why don't you guys speak to him? He's had the PayPal experience. Why don't you go and have a chat, right? So we ended up having a chat with Sanjay. And Sanjay initially said that, I'm happy to become an investor in you. And we said, okay, before we kind of take in your money, why don't we kind of spend some time more whiteboarding with you? And he kind of pushed us in the right direction. We didn't really know about financial services. We don't know banks. We didn't know regulations. He definitely understood a lot more than what Abhishek and I did. He was the guy who kind of taught me what are debits and credits from a banking perspective. So after spending like couple of sessions with us on whiteboarding, and it was such a new idea at that point in time, that Sanjay actually one day told us that rather than being interested in being an investor, he wanted to be a co-founder. And that's how we went from 2 to 3.
If you like to hear stories of founders, then we have tons of great stories from entrepreneurs who have built billion-dollar businesses. Just search for the Founder Thesis podcast on any audio streaming app like Spotify, Gaana, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to the show.
What was the first product? What did you launch with?
So the first product was that the platform had the capability of opening up a bank account. So imagine a retail outlet. The retailer could open up a bank account within a few minutes for a walk-in customer. And then that customer using his mobile or her mobile phone could do deposit and withdrawal transactions.
Is this through smartphones or?
No, feature phones. 2007. Okay. 2007. iPhone got launched in 2007.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's absolutely feature phone. I'm not getting into the details of how we actually thought about the UX of that. It was beautiful the way we kind of cracked that piece too. And so the first product really was that if we sign up with a bank, we can enable bank with a platform wherein if you sign up retailers on the other side, retailers could open up bank accounts and then each of these customers could do deposit and withdrawal transactions. Now imagine at that point in time, Akshay, you could only get bank accounts if you walked into a bank branch or the bankers came to your office or home. It is unimaginable that bank accounts are getting opened at retail outlets. It is unimaginable for people to be using their feature phones to do deposit, withdrawal, remittance kind of transactions. Unbelievable at that point in time, right? And so we kind of took this to a few banks, including Citibank that Sanjay had advised us. We were only shown the door. And we said, hey, what the hell are you guys talking about? This cannot happen in banking. It is regulated. We are no fly-by-night operators that, we can do anything on the mobile phone. We can't do it on the retail. What if the brand gets misused on the retail? So there were many, many, many questions. And certainly we didn't know all the answers. And so what happened was that all the big banks said no to us. Every big bank said no to us. We then got introduced to a gentleman who was the CTO at a bank called Centurion Bank of Punjab. I don't know whether you remember this was a bank.
I remember the name Centurion Bank. I didn't know it was Centurion Bank of Punjab.
Yeah, it was Centurion Bank of Punjab. And Centurion Bank was a small bank. They wanted to scale in some manners. And they thought that this is an interesting low cost way of scaling it up, right? You can open bank accounts, you can do deposit withdrawal without setting branches, ATMs, anything. This can happen, right? So we signed up with Centurion Bank of Punjab in early 2008. And they said that, we are ready for a pilot, happy to do it.
How would the KYC happen in this?
We would collect the documents. We would collect address proof and ID proof, physical documents. There used to be a back end process where we would kind of, seal it and send it to the bank for their approvals to happen. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, the rule was that we would allow people to deposit and withdraw until the bank has approved it. If the bank approves it, the customer keeps going. If the bank does not approve it, as soon as we get the news, the customer is asked to withdraw all the money. You're not allowed to thereafter keep money in the bank account. You are asked to withdraw and we close the bank account. As simple as that. So we had the platform, we kind of demoed it to a couple of times. There are a couple of maybe offline integrations that were done. How does the reports flow here and there? Super exciting times. Lot of learning how banking works and things like that. And I don't recall the date, but maybe it was 9th February. I think it was February. The launch happened. I think it's not very difficult to find the actual date, because the day we were supposed to launch the pilot, that's the day it was announced that HDFC Bank acquired Centurion Bank of Punjab. So initially our initial thought was, wow, this is fantastic, right? We partnered with a small bank and see what happened. We got ourselves a big bank. So the launch started.
One question here. This is dependent on you onboarding retailers, right?
It is.
So it's not a pure software launch.
No, it wasn't.
How did you onboard the retailers then?
We went on the ground. So we started a pilot in a locality in Delhi called Uttam Nagar. We acquired each of the founders, each of the colleagues who were back then, pitched to retailers. We had 30 retailers signed up with us who were trained on the platform and who were then asked to start to do this. So think about it. We had learned it from the mobile network operators. The mobile network operators, it was a very physical, digital kind of setup, right? So we learned it that way. If you wouldn't recall, a lot of companies were completely digital back then.
So you launched with those 30 retailers?
Launched with those 30 retailers. And if I'm not mistaken, about 5,000 bank accounts were opened over the course of the next 2 months. And people started to do deposit withdrawal. Maybe this was like transaction value of about maybe a couple of lakhs in a month. That's the scale that we got to. But it was super hard work. This wasn't easy. This wasn't only software. This was hard work from an operations perspective. This was hard work from a partnership with a bank perspective. This was hard work from just understanding banking. Everything. It was just hard work that we had to put in to get it live.
And what was the monetization?
We charged for the bank account. We charged a little bit of transaction pricing, I think, something like that. Because we had to pay to the retailers as well, right? So if they were opening a bank account, we had to pay them. So I think maybe there were a couple of transactions where we were out of pocket. We had funded. So Abhishek and I had some money. We had put in some money. Sanjay had put in some money. Manoranjan had put in some money. Unlike 60, which started with no capital, that was not the case with Echo. Echo had capital in the beginning. So maybe there were a couple of transactions that we said we'll pay out of our pockets. And there were some things that we charged the customers. So the big event then was about 2 months into the pilot, when HDFC got to know about the pilot. They kind of asked us to kind of visit them in Bombay, and they communicated to us that they were not interested in taking the pilot forward. The reason quoted to us was that they were thinking of a similar partnership with Vodafone to do this, because Vodafone in Kenya had launched M-Pesa.
M-Pesa, right.
Right. So HDFC said that we are aware of M-Pesa. We are in talks and partnership with Vodafone to do M-Pesa in India, and therefore we don't want you guys. That was one. And the other thing they said at that point in time, opening up of bank accounts at retail outlets was not a part of the regulation. It wasn't allowed. We had taken a one-off approval from RBI to kind of, rather, we had not. Centurion Bank of Punjab had taken a one-off approval. And HDFC, being the bank it is, said that, I'm not going to play in gray waters. So I don't want this pilot. So whenever that news was communicated to us, we were told that don't open any more bank accounts. And there was a date given to us, and we were told them that, every of the customer was transitioned from, let's say, branchless banking that we were providing them to branch banking. So all those 5,000 customers were sent off to the closest HDFC branch, where they had to open their bank accounts and get started with usual banking. So the pilot got shut. I don't recall, maybe June, July time. We started in February, but maybe like July, August time frame, we were shut. So think about it. Now it's almost a year. We have spent our money. We have done a pilot and we are out again. But what had happened by then was that at least we had some validation that we can do this. Because the community at that point in time was very, very small, there was a little bit of news that had spread saying that Echo is doing branchless banking absolutely on the mobile phones. One such organization, apart from many, which got to know about this was an organization called CGAP. CGAP is a World Bank body, and CGAP stands for Consultative Group for Assisting the Poor. And CGAP does a lot of work across the globe, even today, in the space of financial services for the poor. And they got to know about the work that we were doing. So they visited us a couple of times where we were not operational. These guys wanted to kind of know what is happening. They came, visited us. We kind of told them the entire story. We showed them how we were doing transactions, and they were like super impressed. They were like, oh my God, nobody is thinking the way you guys are thinking. Nobody has cracked the transaction and the ease of the transaction on a feature phone that you guys have done. So they were like super impressed. And the policymakers were starting to talk about financial inclusion, National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, UPA. All of this was getting to start a talk about. Financial inclusion was being talked about. And so what happened was that CGAP had a fund. It was called CGAP Technology Fund. The CGAP Technology Fund had two limited partners. One was the World Bank. The second was Gates Foundation. Luckily, what happened? So we were shut. CGAP was super impressed with the work that we were doing. And what happened was one of the gentlemen in CGAP mentioned to Abhishek in late October that they are keen to talk about our project to the Gates Foundation. So I remember that, we had a couple of people from the Gates Foundation also who came down and kind of spent some time with us to figure out what we were doing. And maybe like a couple of weeks down or maybe a month later, what happened was, I think the Gates Foundation people or CGAP told us that Bill Gates is on a personal trip to India and he has half a day empty in his schedule. And the foundation and the Gates Foundation has asked CGAP, is there anything interesting that Mr. Gates can see in that free half day that he has? And eventually, amongst many candidates that they must have evaluated, they said Echo is the place that Bill Gates should visit. So a lot of things happened in that prep. But on 8th of November in 2008, we hosted Bill Gates for about 2 hours in our office, took him to the pilot site.
What kind of office did you have that time?
That's a funny story. Manoranjan's father-in-law had a house in Uttam Nagar. His house was our office. So that house is in close vicinity to the market in Uttam Nagar. So we hosted Bill Gates in Uttam Nagar. We got him to visit our office. We got him to visit at least one retail outlet. So
These retail outlets were still transacting?
No,
Like the
no,
Centurion?
they were not.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It was all
Okay.
closed.
Okay.
But we could make our platform live, right? Not that our platforms were really integrated to the core banking system in that point in time. So we had the ability to do demo transactions. So anybody, whether it was an investor, whether anybody who wanted to kind of visit us, we had the capability to kind of, take people out and to see the pilot. So that's what we ended up doing.
That Kirana store owner must have become like your best friend.
The first Kirana store was a guy called Sumit Gupta. Bill Gates visited Sumit Gupta's shop. Sumit Gupta was super excited. We were super excited. Sumit is a small investor in Echo today. So that was a huge event and a huge validation that we were in the right track. But the reality of the business was that we were still not live while Bill Gates did come. What that visit got us to do was, because he was very impressed with the work that we were doing. CGAP was very impressed with the work that we were doing. Gates Foundation was impressed with the work that we were doing. We eventually got ourselves a grant of about $1.8 million from the Gates Foundation. This was, if I'm not mistaken, this money probably hit us sometime in 2009. Maybe 2009, late 2009. Don't really recollect now. So late 2008 was important for us because, this Bill Gates visit happened. And the second thing that happened was, because the news of what Echo was doing had spread a little bit, what had happened was there was a gentleman of State Bank of India. I think I remember the story correctly. The gentleman was a deputy general manager in State Bank of India, posted in the Northeast, but he hailed from Uttam Nagar. So in one of his holidays, he picked up this general story in the market that there is branchless banking happening. He then got to know about us, and he first reached out to us and then got us in touch with the right gentleman in State Bank of India. And then we started to pitch to State Bank of India. So State Bank of India had started a similar program with a different company. This was around branchless banking. It had nothing to do with mobile phones. This was to do with biometrics. So Aadhaar had not come at that time. So this was offline biometric. Hardware was being used and stuff like that. And we were completely based on the mobile phone. So State Bank of India, while they had already started a program with another company, they thought that it would be nice to also evaluate Echo because Echo's model is very different. So what had happened was, because we came from Delhi, we started the program in Delhi, and we said that branchless banking is a need not only in rural parts of the country but also in the urban parts of the country. While the other program the State Bank of India was running was rural. So we first of all positioned ourselves as the technology platform which was running. The front end was on mobile phone, and second, it was urban. And the gentleman in State Bank of India thought that our proposition was strong enough to be evaluated and tested out within State Bank of India. So we started to talk to State Bank of India again in late 2008. We got our contracts done in January of 2009 and again in February of 2009. So exactly a year from the start of the Situate Bank of India's pilot, we again started our second pilot with the State Bank of India, and we've never kind of stopped after that. So that was really the genesis of how this business started. Now, even with State Bank of India, it was just 2009. Think about it. Maybe the first iPhones had just started to come in.
Right.
I think we were using BlackBerry phones back then. So
Okay.
there was no Android.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was the cutting edge.
And so we built for the feature phone, we innovated for the feature phone. Abhishek from all the way from 2002 was thinking about feature phones. I was thinking feature phones from 2005. And now it's about 2009, 10 kind of time frame, right? And that's where the first bus, if I can say, was missed. Because when the smartphones started to come into India, we thought that this was only for the well off. And I don't think so. It was a wrong assumption, but the speed at which it started to increase and the speed at which products started to be built on smartphone in 2010-11 timeframe was also fairly fast. And by 2010-11, I think we were fairly deep into State Bank of India trying to do this branchless banking for, let's say, the low and moderate income. So even if the smartphone penetration had started to happen for the top end, we still kind of held our beliefs that we can continue to build for feature phone. I think that's where we made our first big mistake, that we didn't catch the fundamental changes that were happening in the tech stack. I think even in 2021, there may be a startup which is building for the feature phone, but
It's not the future.
it's not the future, right? And even the venture space and all of that, because our argument with the venture space was our space is big, right? Venture space, I think we understood this later, said you are not the future. I think both of them are true even in 2021. My space is big, but I'm not the future, right? We were late to react to smartphones. We kind of changed our tech stack closer to, I think, late 2013, 2014. By then it was late.
What was the impact? Like, there were less people who were using
No.
Eco's branchless banking.
None of that.
Then
It was increasing.
the VC investing didn't happen. Like, you could attract VC funds.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we raised capital in 2011, but we were never able to raise subsequent rounds, right? Because we raised our capital, let's say, in June of 2011. Let's say if we wanted to raise again in 2013. In 2013, I think there were not too many people who wanted to hear the feature phone story. I am certain in 2013, 80% of Indians had feature phones. More number of feature phones were being sold than smartphones. But I think the writing was on the wall that feature phone is still not the future. We certainly didn't react well in time for that. The way I kind of think about this problem is that when we started Echo, the most admirable company in India back then was Airtel. And we thought, let's build Airtel for the financial services. Now, imagine leave 2021, but even if you think 2017, 2018 timeframe, entrepreneurs coming into financial services, fintech, are not thinking Airtel, right? They are thinking Flipkart. They are thinking let's build Flipkart kind of stuff. Let's build something like Uber. Let's build something like Ola. Let's build something like Swiggy, right? They are not thinking physical acquisitions. They're not thinking feature phones. Not that we were thinking feature phones in 2017. Their learning stack is very different than my learning stack. So for a couple of years, we had the argument to say that, my space is very big. India is full of cash, right? It's not going to go anywhere. Not that we were wrong. Even in 2021, India is only saying that we have a lot more cash than what we had in demonetization, right? Not that we have been proven wrong. However, the, the investor community has taken a view that this is not future. And when I kind of take a step back and I say, yeah, they're right. When I'm doing it and I'm very close to the situation, I'm very close looking at Echo, sure, I feel bad about it and I can defend it endlessly. But when I take a step back, I say, sure, they were right? That this is not the future. We've pivoted many times since 2011. See, look at even after 2011, when we raised our capital, it is 10 years of that too.
Who was the investor in 11? How much
One,
did you raise?
we have an investor by the name of Creations Investment. They're based out of Chicago. And in totality, I think they've invested about $6.5 million. So we've been fairly frugal if I continue to scale and grow Echo over the last 14 years. Just not having been on the right side of the investor community. But had to pivot a lot of times.
What were the pivots like, if you could headline?
The first pivot was don't open bank accounts, but get into a transaction called domestic money transfers. If you think about it, people don't want to open bank accounts. That's not their problem. But the problem that they were facing was migrants wanted to send money back home. First big pivot that happened in 2010, 2011 was we moved away from opening up a bank account business to domestic money transfer business. The second pivot that happened in about 2 years' time was to move from feature phones to smartphones. The third pivot was to not partner with banks, but to get ourselves a wallet license and do the business ourselves. The problem that we were solving was remittances. So one was go from account opening to remittances. Second was go from feature phones to smartphone. Third was don't be dependent on bank partnership, but get yourself an independent license so that you can operate as an independent operator.
Which then means you can do any bank account, like transfer from any bank to any bank. Right?
Yeah, there were multiple advantages. You could decide your own product, you could decide your own pricing, you could decide your own branding, you could do it to multiple bank accounts, many other things. So by the time we kind of finished this third pivot and started to scale, that's when demonetization happened. Demonetization was not too kind to us. So while it kind of really helped the digital players a lot, it significantly affected our business because
you were in the business of moving cash from A to B.
A to B, right? And cash got disrupted. So one big problem that we faced was end of 2016, wherein we lost about 6 to 8 months. The business went down, and just to recover back, it took about 6 to 7 months, right? That was hard. Then we started to scale again. And all through 17, 18, 19 was all scale.
But this is all still dependent on retailer tie-ups.
Yeah. We got efficient with it. We opened up different ways. So before COVID hit us, we had about 200,000, 2 lakh retail outlets. We were processing close to about 2,500 crores of transaction processing a month. In FY20, the retailers had serviced a little less than 2 crore end consumers from their side. So that was the space that we were kind of operating. That was the scale at which we were operating COVID. COVID has been brutal, super brutal, right? Because you and I can work out of homes. But again, retailers, small businesses, low and moderate income people employed informally, earning in cash, it's been brutal, right? It's been certainly a very tough last 12 to 18 months. The fourth pivot that we've managed to do is that now it was only in COVID that I just felt that it was philosophically wrong for me to personally continue to work from office and ask my sales colleague to go out there and acquire retail outlets. I said, I will never do this. This is just so unfair. So over the last 6-8 months, that's been another pivot, which is say completely digital. So today, I'm happy to share that it's been about 6 months now that every retailer acquisition that we do is 100% digital.
That's amazing. I don't think any of the fintech companies have managed to achieve 100% digital.
They certainly have not. And so while they position themselves as fairly digital companies, I don't think so they're very digital from an ops perspective. I think they're very, very, very manual, right? They may be signing up their customers digitally, but see, we are a team of only about 50 people and we have gone completely digital.
What is the secret sauce behind digital onboarding of retailers? I mean, why is nobody else able to manage it? How did you manage it? How do you reach them first? Like, is it Facebook ads or?
Yeah, Google, Facebook.
Okay.
See, getting ads and getting downloads is okay, but ensuring that the signups, the approvals, the ops behind it is also digital and automated is the tough part. I think that's where people are making a mistake. I think what is happening is everyone's spending on Google and Facebook, everyone's getting their apps downloaded, but I don't think so. They are ensuring that the processes at the back end are also automated. See, there are a lot of fintechs who have got a lot of money, as a result of which they have the ability to throw people at the problem. Since we are not sitting at those kind of luxuries, so we really try hard to throw tech at the problem. Now, certainly it's not easy because, tech, there is a time to build it, there's a time to test it, there's cost to it. And sometimes if you just put people to the problem, you might face the eventual scale with a lot of difficulty, but the initial scale is a lot easier, right?
How is the retailer onboarding journey different at Eco as compared to, say, like a Bharat Pay?
Very similar. I am certain that Bharat Pay's journey is better than us. Right. So I'll tell you two things. One is, in the broad fintech context, there are a lot of people who are doing digital acquisition. But in the broad fintech sector, my exact sector, people that I directly compete with, right, are still not into digital acquisition. So Bharat Pay is not a direct competition to me.
But Bharat Pay is also like merchant. I mean, they're targeting merchants.
They are certainly targeting merchants, but we are targeting
not remittances.
They're not targeting remittances or other kind of service. So some of the services that we do, right? So see, the question is, they're not competing with us today. We are about to compete in 6 months' time, and I have no doubts in my mind about it because everybody is attempting to go much deeper into the relationship with the retail outlet. Now, why would you not do a remittances, or why would you do not 5 other things that we do? Or why will Echo not think about doing the 5 other things that, let's say, Bharat Pay or a Khata Book or somebody else does? Everybody will do it. So like any competitive world is going to be competitive world. So I think what has happened is people who have a lot of money are certainly doing digital acquisition. My subsector is not betting big on digital acquisitions today, but I'm very sure that since we are showing the path, there'll be a lot of people who kind of follow it.
Who is directly competing with you in terms of remittances?
For example, the likes of, there's a Fino Payments Bank, there is Airtel Payments Bank, there is Paytm Payments Bank, there is a company called Spice Mobile, there is Pay Nearby, another company based out of Bombay. So there are many more. See, if we get to scale, people in the industry will get to know about it and people will copy, right? I have no doubts about it. Because it is certainly a much more scalable process, even if it is not a cheaper process. It is certainly a much more scalable process. And that's what we are experiencing right now. That's been the latest pivot. The other pivot that we've also managed in the last 6-8 months is that today we do not position ourselves as a money remittance company. Today we position ourselves as an opportunity stack for, let's say, the sellers on our platform. We don't even call them retail outlets or merchants. We call them sellers because remittances, while it's one of the most popular service, it's not the only service now. There are a few more services that the seller is able to do. And
what all are they?
So there is remittances, there is cash out, there is insurance, there is utility bill payments, there's recharge. We are also working with edtech platforms. We work with entertainment platforms. See, all of these brands are also interested in acquiring.
So like you could pay for a Netflix subscription.
Bang on. So if you go in that direction, you can almost partner with almost every other app which is present on the Play Store or the App Store, right? Because many brands wish to collect their money from their customers who continue to earn in cash or who are comfortable with cash, right? So one side of Echo is transaction processing, which is like opening up a lot of transactions. But our business is about lending. So what we do today is that basis all the data, transaction data, and all the engagement data that gets collected over our platform, what we do is really lending to the sellers. So if you think about it, from when I use the word opportunity stack, there are 3 parts to this. So as soon as we ventured into digital acquisition, what also happened is that retail is not the only cohort of sellers who sign up with us today. We've got 30% of our signups on a daily basis is individuals. So women,
Okay.
housewives, men, students, retired government servants.
So
apart
these
from
are like
retail.
micro entrepreneurs, like somebody
Ultra small entrepreneurs
yeah.
may or may not have a shop front. Certainly
But they have a network and they want to offer this to their
absolutely.
network.
So if it's a retail outlet, the walk-in is the natural flow. If it's an individual, they kind of create a community of customers around them. So today we kind of sign up both retail outlets as well as individuals through our digital process. We offer
and your signups are like what, tier 1, tier 2, like
across. So about 30%,
Okay.
about 30-40% are also tier 3, tier 2, tier 3 downwards. So we are signing up in Delhi and we are also signing up somebody in Patna and also 50 kilometers outside of Patna. We are doing all of that. Digital acquisition kind of helps us go across, right? So opportunity stack converts into a digital store for the seller. This digital store has 3 parts to this. One are transactions which increase your revenue. For example, you can sell insurance, you can sell an edtech product, you can sell an entertainment product, you can do remittance, etc. Then there's a part of product which is to digitize your own business, which is to say QR codes, which is to help you file your GST returns, pay your. So let's say if you have 5 people who work for you, pay their salaries digitally rather than cash. So more transactions, newer transactions for you to earn more money, digitize your business, and basis all the transaction, the engagement data that gets generated over the first 2 pillars, we've created a proprietary underwriting algorithm to lend to our sellers.
That QR code product is like same as what Bharat Pay is offering, like to collect payment.
So many solutions. So think about many solutions to increase your revenue, many solutions to digitize your business, and to get access to credit. That's really the 3 halves.
So in a way, Bharat Pay would become your closest competitor.
It will.
Guess.
In many ways, so will Khata Book, so will Pagar Book, so will Bharat. So there is.
But are you offering like Khata Book kind of like digital ledger?
Not yet.
But it's in the pipeline.
We are thinking about it. There is a ledger kind of a product which is there between our distributor and retail outlets, but it is not open between the retailer and the end consumer. So there are many ways to think about this, Akshay, right? How do you compete with Khata Book, who has so much of money behind it and brand and power? So I think there's a handful of things that we have to think about for the next 10 years for us to survive. Let's see what we do.
Okay. So in the last 10 years, you've not raised any funds. There's just that in 2011.
The same investor did a follow-up round in 2017 as well.
But I mean, considering the space that you're now in, like, that Bharat Pay Khata Book kind of a space, I guess there should be pretty strong investor interest. No, are you like having conversations or?
See, our legacy also doesn't work for us, right? There are like super young, the likes of Abhinav in 2006, 2007 are opening up Khata Book right now, right? So very, very bright entrepreneurs with all the energy to go on for the next 10 years. So not only we have to fight for our space in terms of ideas, we have to fight our legacy, we have to fight. We always have to answer for why has our journey been the journey that we have been on, right? So a lot of people kind of come and tell us that, you guys can raise around very quickly, but why don't you start again rather than continue to build on Echo? So, there are options on the table that one has to explore and see what's best for us, right? So let's see what happens.
What is your advice to people who are dreaming about starting up?
Start early. It takes time, right? It really takes time. And I often used to say that I wish I was 24 again with all the information that I have right now. So my one singular advice is just get started. I think I actually, honestly, I don't know how an entrepreneur who's starting off today is thinking about it, right? Because in our times, it genuinely was jumping off the cliff, right?
And building your plane on the way down.
Yeah. And all for the good reasons. The VC community is much stronger. The entrepreneurial support structures are much stronger. Sometimes it feels that access to capital has certainly become a lot better. So I think it's the times are only continue to get better.
So that was Abhinav talking about his journey of scaling up Echo. If you want to know more about what all Echo offers, then check out echo.in. That's EKO.in. This episode of Founder Thesis Podcast is brought to you by Long Haul Ventures. Long Haul Ventures is the long haul partner for founders and startups that are building for the long haul. More about them is at www.longhaulventures.com.